A big blow for Arsenal and their Champions League ambitions as Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace smashed Arteta's Arsenal 3-0. But where exactly did it all go wrong for the Gunners? Which players let us down? And what were the tactical errors made by Mikel Arteta? Well, let's find out in the 5 things that we learned from Crystal Palace 3, Arsenal 0. The first thing is Thomas Partey's stinker. Look, I'm not here to go over the top. I understand that a lot of fans are going to be angry, and rightly so. Losing 3-0 in a massive game is not what you want to see. Instead of ranting and starting to cry, let's actually break this stuff down and actually analyse where did it go wrong for Arsenal. As Mikel Arteta said after the game, I put my hands up, I'll take the criticism, we weren't good enough and it is down to me. He wants to take all the blame off the players and straight away take all of the accountability, but to be honest, a lot of the players let Mikel down today, and in particular our number 5 in Thomas Partey. In the first half alone, he lost the ball 10 times. And as said by Alan Smith in commentary, his composure has deserted him out there. He is not the only one. Before we go over the top, let's make it clear, Thomas Partey has been excellent for Arsenal so far in this year of 2022. He's been excelling on the ball, excelling off the ball, and thriving as a lone number 6. But in this game, we saw exactly how important a number 6 is, where if you dare not be at your best, as we saw with Partey today, Arsenal are going to fall apart. It was a true stinker from Thomas Partey, a bit of a disgraceful performance because his passing composure disappeared. Things like defensive assurity was not there anymore, and dare I say he looked a bit legged and tired as well. And it was a real surprise because of how excellent Thomas Partey has been, and for me it was a bit of an eye-opener of where Thomas Partey still lacks the most, and that is consistency. As EBL points out, Partey really needs to learn to manage games. He's a number 6, a controller, a deep-lying playmaker, so enable your team to keep the ball and stop forcing passes when your team needs control. This has always been his biggest flaw. His performances aren't consistent as he's aggressive. Over the past few weeks, we've seen Thomas Partey's radar in full effect, passing forwards, being very incisive. He can pick up passes, but in this game he was forcing it far too often. In some occasions during the build-up phase, he was almost hiding, and every time he got the ball, I didn't feel secure with Thomas Partey, which hasn't been the case for a very long time. And it is slightly concerning because going into the long term, as Mikel Arteta has made clear throughout the season, he wants to transition into the 4-3-3. And if that is to be the case, you need your number 6 to be on job week in, week out. You look at Rodri at Man City, Fabinho at Liverpool, Casemiro at Real Madrid. Thomas Partey has been that player for the past few months, but you can't drop games like this if you want to be at the elite level. I don't think Granit Xhaka was at his best either, and certainly him moving to left back didn't help out Thomas Partey. But as I said in my preview, I think the midfield was going to be very important. Palace have some really hard runners like Conor Gallagher. If Arsenal weren't up for the physical battle and made decisive errors like they did, Crystal Palace were always going to punish us. But now it's time to see Thomas Partey's character. Our next game against Brighton at the Emirates is going to be massive. It will be gargantuan for Arsenal, but also for Thomas Partey to show us what he's really made of. But will he even play in that game? Because in this game he walked off after Palace's 3rd goal, and as Mikel Arteta says after the game, I don't know, but he felt something in the same area that he's got injured previously, so that's a big concern. Big concern, I mean a massive concern there, because yes, he was poor today, but Thomas Partey has been so vital for Arsenal's form over the past few months. If he misses our next few massive games, what are Arsenal going to do? Will they throw in Albert, Samuel Lokonga, Mohamed Elneny? This is just not what you want to hear. So my friends, let me know your own thoughts on the Arsenal midfield performance and talk to me in particular about Thomas Partey. What did you guys make of his performance, and do you think it was just a one-off blip? On to the second thing, and that is Nuno Tavares' disaster class. It was an Arsenal disaster class, to be honest, and Nuno Tavares, again, another young player that I don't want to go over the top on, but with Kieran Tierney's injury that we heard about before the game, Tavares was thrown into the Arsenal starting lineup. It was a massive game, and Nuno Tavares dropped a bit of a clanger, subbed off at half time. Starting off with the first goal, he lost all composure at that far post, utterly dominated by the Crystal Palace centre-back, but what was more costly was that second goal. Gabriel Magalhaes attempts to intercept the ball, he misses the ball, which can happen, but that is when Nuno Tavares has to remain switched on. You have to anticipate any sort of errors and not get caught ball watching. But unfortunately, that was exactly the case. Palace made it 2-0, and for me, that is what Arsenal lost the game there and there. Physically and technically, he has everything to become a top left back, but for me, the issue here is the mentality of the player. Can he remain switched on? Does he have the concentration to be a top left back? I think what Tierney is very good at is being switched on as much as possible. He never loses composure in the defensive phase. He's normally very reliable. Tavares is still, of course, 21 years of age, so fingers crossed he can develop it over time. But for Arsenal, with Tierney potentially out, is Nuno Tavares going to step up? But talking about KT, Arteta says he's going to see a specialist tomorrow, and we will know more the extent of the injury. The feeling that he had wasn't positive, and the scans either. And according to an exclusive report coming out of Scotland, Kieran Tierney fears his season could be over for Arsenal and Scotland. Sunsport understands that Tierney reported back to Arsenal after international duty with a problem which would likely require surgery. This is why I hate the international break, because things like this can always happen. In the space of a short time, Arsenal could be without two of their most important players in the most important part of the season. But for me now, I have to ask questions of young Nuno Tavares. He got subbed off at half time. His last appearance he got subbed off in the 34th minute against Nottingham Forest. Can he now show his character at the Emirates and the game on Saturday? Because we cannot have Granit Xhaka playing as a left back. He is simply too important to Arsenal in a central midfield playing alongside Thomas Partey. So now the question for Mikel Arteta is, what are you going to do on Saturday against Brighton? My friends, talk to me down below in the comments what you guys make of Kieran Tierney potentially being out for the rest of the season, and do you think young Nuno can step up in KT's absence? On to the third thing, and that is Alexandre Lacazette, no focal points. Look, there's no denying in that first half in particular, Crystal Palace had Arsenal pressed in. But when things aren't working out, you can't find your rhythm playing out the back. You have to ask the question of, can you now go long to your striker? And Aaron Ramsdale, Ben White and Gabriel, we certainly have players that have the ability to play long passes in behind. But when you've got 5'9" Alexandre Lacazette up front, he's not going to win those headers or keep the ball up there. This game for me exposed Arsenal's lack of a proper, secure focal point going down the middle. What's more frustrating is Lacazette has shown that he is able to at least hold the ball up and play other players into play. But in this game, he was so technically insecure. His first touch was very poor, his passes were very wayward, and even in terms of crosses into the box, he offered no goal threat. And talking about goal threat, Alexandre Lacazette's last open play goal was 17 games ago against Crystal Palace on the 11th of December 2021. For me, the most ironic thing is you look at Alexandre Lacazette and compare him to the Crystal Palace striker in Mateta, and he is exactly what Arsenal require right now. An aggressive striker, always on the move in the box, trying to sniff out chances, but also in the hold-up play, aggressive, physical, backing into Gabriel. That is the profile that Arsenal require, but right now we're stuck with Alexandre Lacazette. But in this game and the past few games, Lacazette hasn't been at his best in my opinion. So now Mikel Arteta is posed with a massive question. Of course, we don't have Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but he wasn't really a hold-up striker. I don't think he'll start Eddie Nketiah, but potentially in Gabriel Martinelli. We've always said about this. Maybe in the next game after this embarrassing result from Arsenal, will we see Mikel Arteta change the front three and potentially throw Gabriel Martinelli as the centre forward? But it wasn't just Alexandre Lacazette. I think the rest of the attack, Saka was poor as well. Martin Odegaard was unbelievably poor in that first touch, and for me it was Odegaard's worst performance of the season by a country mile. But at the same time, Arsenal still had chances, especially in the second half, where Emil Smith-Rowe and Martin Odegaard need to be far more decisive. But what did you guys make of the Arsenal attack, the tactics going forwards, and more importantly, going into the next game on Saturday against Brighton at the Emirates? Would you change the Arsenal attack? Would you throw in Gabriel Martinelli as that centre forward and replace Alexandre Lacazette? On to the fourth thing, and that is Crystal Palace are legit. There is no denying that this was an awful performance for Mikel Arteta's Arsenal, and gave me flashbacks of late Arsene Wenger Arsenal, late Unai Emery Arsenal, where we would get bullied consistently away from home. But you also have to understand who Arsenal up against. A very well coached Crystal Palace under Patrick Vieira, and as the XG shows, Palace deserved to win this game with a 1.78 to Arsenal's 0.88. But it's very important to understand that this wasn't the first time that Crystal Palace have caused big teams issues. Need I remind you that under Patrick Vieira, Crystal Palace have won 4 points out of 6 out of the current top team in the league in Man City, holding them to a 0-0 draw only a few weeks ago. And on top of that, they also battered Spurs 3-0 at Selhurst Park earlier on in the season as well. They've given the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool hard games as well, so Palace aren't no joke. They're a legit team, and Patrick Vieira is doing an incredible job. So when you break down the circumstances that Arsenal were in going into this game, without their first choice left back and right back, in an area Palace really strive with Wilfried Zaha and Andre Ayew, it was always going to be a tough ask. I'm not saying that if Kieran Tierney starts, Arsenal win this game, but all I'm trying to provide is a bit of context. Palace are no joke of a team, and they have caused some of our big rivals massive issues as well. But what did you guys make of the performance itself, and was it more of Crystal Palace being great or Arsenal being poor? For me, it was a bit of a combination, but you know what? Fair play to Patrick Vieira, fair play to Crystal Palace. They deserve to win this game. On to the fifth and final thing, and that is twists and turns to come. At this moment, I want to ask for a little bit of calm, and as Jamie Carragher says, it was a bad night for Arsenal, but it's very important that they don't start to panic. They are in a really good position, and there is still a long way to go. At this moment now, it's very important that us as fans, and more importantly, the players themselves, they stay calm and they don't panic. They have to look at this performance, break it down and almost treat it as a bit of a blip. And I say that because out of our last 6 away games, Arsenal have still won 15 out of a possible 18 points. That's 5 wins out of our last 6 away games. And at home, Arsenal have the 3rd best record in the Premier League. This is now the time where the Arsenal players have to show their character. And Mikel Arteta gives these players a template every single game to go out there and to win the game. But it's whether these players then choose to use it or not, because in this game, Mikel Arteta set Arsenal up to go press aggressive. But when Arsenal got into the final third, they were very timid. They were almost very scared of Palace, the atmosphere, the hard game, the fans against them. But as Arsenal have shown over the past few weeks, going to Villa Park away getting the 3 points, going to Wolves away getting the 3 points, it looks like Arsenal are starting to turn a corner. So it's very important now that we bounce back and show that character once again. This for me was our worst performance since our 2-1 defeat to Everton at Goodison Park back in December. But it was after that performance where Arsenal turned it around. We won on a 5 or 6 game winning streak, we put in some great performances, and since the start of 2022, this is now only our 3rd league defeat. Say what you want about tonight, but Arsenal have been pretty consistent, and that of course is going to be very important in the race for the Champions League football. But let's get into that. First things first, West Ham got all 3 points as they beat Everton 2-1, and then you also had Tottenham Hotspur beating Newcastle at their home by 5-1. But this is how it leaves the Premier League table. Spurs overtake Arsenal into 4th, but only on goal difference, and Arsenal still have a game in hand. I think that's the first time the Spurs are going to end a weekend above Arsenal in nearly 4 months. But talking about Spurs and Arsenal, the rescheduled North London derby will now be played on Thursday the 12th of May at 7:45. That is going to be a gargantuan game for the Champions League. But here are Arsenal's remaining fixtures. Next up, Brighton at home, then Southampton away, Chelsea away, United at home, West Ham away, Leeds at home, Tottenham away, Newcastle away, and Everton at home. Those are some hard games there for me. The most important are the next 2 there. Brighton at home, Southampton away, especially after night, are games that Arsenal have to get maximum points out of. And as Mikel Arteta said before the game, on the togetherness of the squad, for me it's crucial because it's the platform and the cement that you can build. You need the club and the supporters to be on board with what you are doing, to support it, to encourage it. So after the game, when you hear the Arsenal away fans continuously singing Mikel Arteta's name, me as an Arsenal fan and most Arsenal fans are still backing the manager, we're still backing the team. And we understand that tonight was an embarrassment, but going forwards, things are still in our hands. We remain in control of our own destiny. And yeah, we do have some hard games, but let's be honest, any game at this stage of the season, it's always going to be hard. But as they say, you really find out what your players are made of when the going gets tough. So now we find out the characters we have in this Arsenal squad. What do you guys make of the battle for the top 4? What do you guys make of tonight's performance? And do you think this was a one-off game where Arsenal can recover and still make their way into the Champions League? It's twists and turns to come, and this race is far from being run. But that is a video there, so if you have enjoyed, smash a like, subscribe if you're new, follow your boy on them social medias if you want to, links are down below in the description. But that was the 5 things that we learnt from Crystal Palace 3, Arsenal 0. It was in many ways an embarrassing performance, an embarrassing scoreline. Fair play to Patrick Vieira, but for Arsenal, a massive game on Saturday. Look forward to that and hope for the best. Anyways, I'll see you next time. Take care and in a bit.